What is good, ladies and gents? This is your boy RTL Faith, and we are back on the channel talking about the anime, manga slash webtoon review, talking about a lot of different series because I want to open my horizon, of course. Now, what I do want to start doing is some different type of collaborations with notable creators of a particular series, of course. And hey, if you know Dr. Stone, then you better know this guy, because this is the #1 Dr. Stone enthusiast, #1 Dr. Stone content creator out there at this moment. My guy here, Shonen Ouji.
Hello, everyone. RTL, thanks for having me on. I will say thank you for the kind words. Notable creator. I don't know if I would call myself notable, but thank you. And also, not only am I the best Dr. Stone enthusiast, I might as well be the only one. But that's not true. There's a ton of Dr. Stone fans. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about one of my favorite manga.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what we're going to be talking about today, obviously, you guys can see the title and the thumbnail, is what you, yes, you, if you have not read Dr. Stone, why you should read Dr. Stone. And if you're thinking about getting into the series in general, maybe this will help as well. For some reason, there's really just not a lot of people checking out the series. There's not a lot of people talking about the series. I mean, you even said, hey man, you might be the only Dr. Stone fan out there, because hey, no one really talks about it. The only person I had a discussion about Dr. Stone for the manga is this man here. Other than that, I've really not talked about anybody else with Dr. Stone.
I mostly agree. The problem is like the fans that are there. There's a lot of them, but it's a very quiet fan base, which is good and bad. It's good because there's like no toxicity in the Dr. Stone community, like literally zero. But it's bad because it doesn't create any controversy, which means like it's not really a lot of eyes on Dr. Stone. But as far as like why it doesn't really get a lot of attention besides the fan base being kind of chill, I think it really goes down to the anime. Like the manga is really good right now. It's selling really well. There is a ton of promotion, from color pages to covers on Shonen Jump to just everything they could be doing to promote the manga. They have been slowly doing more promos for the anime, but I think mostly it's just missing the like hype of shows like JJK, AOT, even Demon Slayer. Like if Dr. Stone could get a infamous episode 19 level of hype, like not that high necessarily, but something similar to that, I think all of a sudden that gap in like eyes and engagement would naturally fill itself.
Yeah, I definitely agree to what you're saying here. And that is why we're talking about whether or not you should be reading the manga versus watching the anime, because the anime, although it is very good, very entertaining, very good animation, and the adaptation is pretty on point so far, it is going to take a while for seasons to pour in and for you to get into the juicy stuff. Because for me personally, and I'm sure it's the same with Ouji here, the best arcs are later to come. So we're going to be talking about why you should be reading Dr. Stone instead of watching it at this point, if you are not watching it, or if you are caught up and are contemplating reading the manga. And I really wanted to make this video because, one, I do have a friend who doesn't want to read Dr. Stone, and it's kind of similar to why people don't read Hunter x Hunter in a sense, right? Hunter x Hunter, people don't read it because, Jesus Christ, it is not a manga, it is a book. Like, there's way too many words on certain chapters, plus the art is not spectacular. Although Dr. Stone has very good art, there are some times where people can get overwhelmed with the math, the science, and the big terminology that Dr. Stone has. So, Shonen Ouji, I know you have some reasons why people should be reading the Dr. Stone manga, so let's break them down to see if we can convince some of the people watching in this video.
In general, you really should be reading the manga. One, you already brought it up, the art. Ouji is like easily one of the best manga artists. From like the way he's just very versatile. Like he can go from these very simple comedic scenes where it's like this very slapstick comedy to more serious scenes where the characters are like talking about their insecurities and like what they have to do to beat all these villains, to like these really, really sophisticated, detailed panels that are so gorgeous you could literally just take the panel, scan it, and like make a poster out of it. And that's just something like with My Hero Academia, as high as the peaks of the anime might be, you're just not going to experience the level of detail and insane talent that you get with Boichi unless you read the manga. So a lot of people like to just think that Boichi is the writer and artist. He is only the artist. The writer is Inagaki. So in case you're wondering, Inagaki has also done Eye Shield 21, which the manga for that, Inagaki wrote it, and then Murata did the art for that, Murata is also the artist for One Punch Man. But that's Inagaki. Boichi does the art for Dr. Stone. He also did the writing for the reboot, which you should totally check out. But he also did the art for Sunken Rock, which, if you've ever seen the protagonist for Sunken Rock, is literally just Senku on steroids. And anyone who sees Sunken Rock, Maskman really likes Sunken Rock. Apparently, it's in his top 50. I don't know how true it is. I just saw the thumbnail for that. But the art for Sunken Rock is insane. Like, insane level of detail. So, I mean, if you want something like that, that's what you get on a weekly basis with Dr. Stone.
All right. So basically, what we're saying here is Dr. Stone, in terms of art, is top tier. In terms of like current manga that show up every single week, I probably put Dr. Stone number 1.
I would probably say number 1. I will say Boichi has the advantage of only being responsible for the art. Like, he does consult with Inagaki about the storyboard, but other than that, he's just getting the storyboard, giving a few thoughts, because he does like co-create it, and then he's just doing the art. Inagaki is on top of all the writing. Like, one of my favorite art, obviously I love Oda, but after that, my 2 favorite are Tabata and Horikoshi. And like, to think about all the art they have to do on top of all the writing stuff they have to do, like, just look at Black Clover. Like, the spreads in Black Clover are nuts. Like, they're insane. Just based on work product, I'd have to agree. In terms of like consistent, like detailed, amazing art, Boichi gets it.
All right. Yeah. Yes, sir. Hey, man, don't hate the player, hate the game. So it is what it is at the end of the day. So in terms of like the people who don't want to read all them mathematical problems and solutions and computations and huge terminologies and all the science, they just don't want to look at that because, you know, they just want to read pictures and read simple, you know, terminology. What do you have to say about that?
I would say it probably sounds worse in your head than when you actually start to read it. Because when you actually start to read it, I did a video on like why Dr. Stone is better than something like Bill Nye. Because in something like Bill Nye, where the purpose is to educate you, they go out of their way to explain something at length. Dr. Stone does not explain scientific concepts at length. What it does, it gives you the absolute basics. So there is some science and math, but it's really just the very basics so that you have some idea of what's going on. But other than that, it's more show than tell. And the only really like wordy example is the reboot, when they're literally in space, and so they have to do like MIT or like graduate level math so that they don't crash and burn in the earth. But other than that, like a great example is when they're building the cell phones. Like, I have no idea what the chemical composition of tungsten is. Like, I have no idea where it is on the periodic table. But if you asked me what metal has the highest heat resistance, I'm going to tell you tungsten, because I know in Dr. Stone they needed the metal with the highest metal resistance for the cell phone, and I know that was tungsten. So that is the perfect example of how science is handled in Dr. Stone.
Yes, sir. So not only are you reading something that for the most part is not truly that complicated, but you are learning actual real life science from a
Mhm.
manga that is not meant for you to actually learn this stuff, but it just is added bonus to, obviously entertain the audience. And personally, for me, I don't believe you really need to understand any of that stuff to enjoy the story, because although it's an added bonus, especially for science and math lovers, of course, it is just there for it to kind of explain and be a little bit more detailed on how they're doing what they're doing, but it has no kind of big relevance on how the story is progressing, I would say. In general, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Again, just to reiterate what I said, it is not meant to explain science or anything at length. All it is really doing, in terms of the science, is showing you how things work in practice. So if it does any teaching, it's more like Karate Kid, like teach you by showing you rather than just like lecturing you. Um, and that's really all it is. Again, if you take anything away, it's more like you take away like how something works rather than like explaining it abstractly like in a classroom.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, not only have you heard that the art is basically the best in Shonen Jump right now, and the reason why you don't want to read it is because it may be too complicated, but in actuality, it's actually not that complicated. It doesn't really matter, and you actually might learn something. So, those are actually two bonuses right there. But, OG, if you had to pick the biggest reason why someone have to read the Dr. Stone manga, they just need to pick it up, start reading it, and go along for the ride, what would you say is your biggest reason?
See, that's a toughie. I'm 50-50 on that. Because in general, I would probably say the characters. But if I'm really selling it to like a manga fan, I would say the reason is Dr. Stone has the best iteration of shonen optimism. Like that work hard, you can do what you want if you just work towards it philosophy. So I guess it's really one or the other, but it's really both. If there's one that you'd rather I get into, I can do that. But those are really my two answers.
I guess you could definitely dive into what you mean by shonen optimism for these people.
Okay, so to be fair, this is a direct quote from the reboot. So it technically is not quoted word for word like this in the main story. However, it's all one series, so it technically is. But in the reboot, there's a certain decision that Senku's dad makes, and one of the other characters is like, "You're going to get us killed. This is stupid. Why are you doing this?" And he questions his leadership. And Senku's dad, aka the best dad in anime and in the universe, says, "I don't care about leadership. I'm just trying to take a long shot and make it the right move." That's more or less what he says. I don't know if I'm exactly quoting it, but that's like 95% word for word. And that's basically the whole theme of Dr. Stone, is solving these complex problems, because that's what Dr. Stone is all about. Not solving problems with power-ups or transformations or power levels, solving problems that are insanely complex with science. And what Senku does is he takes a crazy long shot and finds a way to make it the right move. And I personally think that is the best iteration of the shonen optimism that is so popular in series like Naruto, My Hero, Black Clover, etc. Because in Naruto, I think the best iteration of like optimism in that series was the Talk No Jutsu with Pain. Because Pain was like, "What's your answer to the issue of like peace and war?" And Naruto's only answer was really like, "Well, I'm going to have faith. Like, I'm just going to believe that it can happen." But with Dr. Stone, you have something a little more concrete and a little more tangible, a little more practicable. So that's why I think it is, no, without question, the best iteration of shonen optimism.
Yeah, and I think that's a great answer for what you're talking about here, in terms of why people should check out the story, especially if you want to check out something that is similar to the shonen formula in a sense, with the general plot structure, but at the same time different as a series and how it approaches its story compared to like a battle shonen like Black Clover or One Piece or MHA or JJK. It's different but the same, and it really hits on its elements and more practically, like Ouji said. I mean, everything has way better logic to an extent. Senku's intelligence is actually absolutely ridiculous. Like, he literally might be the smartest human that ever existed, but it is a shonen manga at the end of the day. And then obviously there are some elements that are a little bit more definitely fiction that needs to be explored more, because at some point, you know, you got to go out towards the outlandish to really have a intriguing story, especially when talking about the end of civilization and then a restart of civilization all in one story. So yeah, I think you make a great point here, OG, and I don't want to make this video too long, but I feel like we really hit on some strong points here in terms of why people should check out Dr. Stone, why people should read the manga. And hey man, if you guys start reading it and you guys need some fire Dr. Stone content, hey man, make sure to check out my boy here, Shonen OG. His link will be in the description below, of course, so make sure to check it out if you're confused about anything Dr. Stone, of course. Any last words you have here?
No, I'll just say thanks for having me. Thanks for the shout out. I highly recommend watching the anime, reading the manga, reading the reboot. Personally, my favorite story in all of Dr. Stone, but that's a discussion for another time. And yeah, check out the awesomeness that is Dr. Stone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Make sure to do that, of course. This has been your boy RTL Faith. I will see you guys next time. Peace out.